Okay, Kiri. So a couple things like right off the bat, like Intel's definitely floundering right now. They're definitely behind the curve, and their long term doesn't look all that great. Now, of course, AMD is just absolutely crushing it with the whole Ryzen 7 nanometer CPUs and the improvements from Gen 1 to Gen 2 to Gen 3. I actually have a great video on what I think the Zen 4s are going to look like. You can check that out there. But AMD is within no question totally killing the market with desktop processors, consumer desktop processors. Let's be clear. So how long? Like, how long is this going to happen? How long is this going to continue for? And I think we can make some really good assumptions for like the next 3 years, of both companies, just generally speaking, and how that might impact the consumer market for both CPUs and GPUs. Let's be realistic. AMD's GPUs are definitely closing the gap. First off, let's talk about Intel just for a second. So there's a couple things that I've noted down, right? So the inherent problems, I think, with Intel is that they become complacent over the last, well, forever, right? Because Intel's just had the complete corner on, consumer desktop processor, mobile processor chips, right? They've always been on the top, and AMD was always below, but not the case anymore. Pretty interesting. And so that complacency complacency that they had, that they were sure that they were always going to be the best, has really caught up to them now, and it's caught them with their pants down for sure. So, I think a couple of the things that are actually driving factors here are the rigidity and the strictness of manufacturing. So the business aspects of Intel per se have some interesting traits. For instance, there's two manufacturing plants that are exactly identical down to like the light bulb. The light bulb. Is that necessary? Okay, how many of these unnecessary things are going on that are really just inhibiting Intel from making, let's just face it, like a badass CPU, right? The other thing about that too is if they have this sort of rigidity with just like their manufacturing layouts and their manufacturing plants, what sort of strict, policies do they have in engineering and manufacturing that are also limiting them from keeping up with current times, keeping up with their competition, keeping up with AMD? So these are some things that have been running through my head. So in a nutshell, right? Intel has been on the top of the leaderboard, has been on the top of the totem pole for so long that the company has forgotten how to be nimble. I think that's like the core thing I'm trying to convey here, is that they are slow to pivot. And we've seen that when they've been matched up with the new Ryzen 7 CPUs. Like, they haven't pivoted. In fact, if we go ahead and look at the 3-year plan for both AMD and Intel, it's safe to say that, at some point in time we're transitioning to DDR5. That might be happening sooner than later. It kind of just depends on the chip shortage. I actually talk about that in my other video. But with that, what company, like, what chip is Intel going to make to utilize DDR5, and then what chip is AMD going to use or manufacture to use DDR5? And it looks something like Intel's going to go from a 14 nanometer chip to a 10 nanometer chip. Ooh, right? But AMD's going from a 7 nanometer chip to a 5 nanometer chip. Massive difference. Like just like the thermal properties alone, the benefits of going from 7 to 5 versus 14 to 10 pay huge dividends, and actually gives AMD a whole lot more room to grow in that 5 nanometer world than Intel can grow in the 10 nanometer world. So they're going to phase out that 10 a whole lot sooner than they think they are, whereas AMD could just ride the 5 nanometer wave for a relatively long time until until Intel catches up rather. So that's kind of interesting. So on the 3-year plan, it doesn't look so impressive for Intel. And then the other thing too is like that 3-year plan isn't that fast because, again, they fail to pivot. They fail to adjust and be nimble to the market. So concerning, right? Now, that doesn't mean this is going to be the end for Intel. I mean, not by any means. So Intel had 90%, arguably 80 to 90% of the whole CPU market, right? And that's just an estimate. Like, I'm sure you guys can find statistical numbers online. That's just let's just call that a good assumption for the sake of having this conversation. So if they had 80 to 90% of the market, and I would also say they have like 99% of the server-based market, right? The data center / server-based market. And now AMD has brought a new Goliath, right, to the ring. AMD is essentially taken a part of that market share away, which is really only about 30%. So, AMD went from that 10 percentile monster to now this 30 percentile, right? Let's just say, and growing. Don't forget that 30 percentile is growing. Like, it's hard enough to get those chips as they are right now. So they're growing, they're expanding, which is shrinking the size that Intel has, rather, on the consumer desktop market. But Intel still has the data center and server market cornered pretty hard for now, right? For now. Well, I mean, like, what's next? The EPYC processors are making headway. I'm just not sure by how much. There's not a lot of resource out there for me to ponder and think about those sorts of scenarios. But this all makes sense. So it's amazing the hype that AMD gets from like cornering 10% of the market in the past to now expanding to that 30% plus market, and then all the waves that it's causing, and then Intel just really not stepping up to the plate. I mean, let's just be honest. Like, what's the deal? So I think in closing, some interesting things to think about here is, one, what is AMD going to do to make sure that they keep gaining this market share, right? The Zen 4 5 nanometer seems to be a huge win. What's that going to look like? Is it going to be still on the AM4 socket? Are we going to transition to DDR5? Right? Where are these hurdles? When are they coming? How soon are they coming? This is all really interesting information. Then on the flip side, it's like Intel, right? What is Intel doing to free up the personnel that work for them so that they can be more creative, they can be more constructive, that they don't have to be so tied down and so rigid with maybe their manufacturing or quality control or etc. Not to say those aren't important. I'm just saying, let's open up some doors. Let's be creative. Let's be innovative, right? Embrace change. That message really needs to come from the top down, right? Because, like I said, Intel's Floundering. What are they going to do to change this? Let's start with the culture, or instill some sort of positive culture in your employees, and let it trickle down from the top. What that looks like, it's tough. But the reality is, there's lots of experts out there that do just that. Help companies, large companies, even in fact, build a culture. So I think that's a good place to start. I think engineering and manufacturing is a good place to start. And I kind of want to see a battle, because when the two titans go head to head, right, we get the best products. So I can't wait to see what happens in the future. But these are just my thoughts with Adam Hughes. So if you like this video, if you stuck around for this long, be sure to hit the thumbs up. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and comment. Please comment. It's always entertaining to see what you all think about these assumptions, because at the end of the day, that's what they are. But I can't do these sort of things without you. I am totally rewarded when you guys hit the like and subscribe. I can't tell you how much I appreciate those sorts of things. So that's going to do it for us today. Take care. Fight on. See you next time.